Now, beyond that, the government has not given itself any other powers in these rules to take down. Whatever takedown powers are there arise from the IT Act and the rules which are to do with Section 69, and there have been no changes in that at all.
No,
So I just
we
wanted
can
to,
come to that
yeah, we'll
later.
come to that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
say that up front. The the two these rules deal with two issues. One, of course, the very important issue of online gaming. And online gaming, as you know, is a very exciting, very fast growing, expanding part of the overall innovation ecosystem. It is certainly, by any stretch of imagination, an extremely exciting area for startups and investments and creativity for the coming years, and has been for some months and years now plagued with all kinds of legal interpretations, many courts giving orders, many states enacting rules, regulations, guidelines, and as we saw recently, Tamil Nadu enacting its own law, creating essentially a regulatory minefield of uncertainty, ambiguity, confusion, etc., etc. And so these rules essentially lay out a very clear, crystal framework, establish principles, and create institutional capacity through SROs to further develop regulatory maturity and regulatory direction as we go forward. In essence, however, the fundamental principle, which is consistent with our overall framework to make sure that the internet is safe and trusted, and therefore to mitigate user harm, is that we have identified betting and wagering as the user harm that will not be permitted on the internet. And when we start with that basic principle that user harm should include betting and wagering, and that is therefore a no go area for platforms and intermediaries. It follows very simply from there that online gaming of all types, therefore, are permitted online on the Indian internet, excepting for those that are real money and that pass the test of real money and wagering, or real money and addiction, on real money and user harm for children. So, therefore, the basic principles of what online gaming is permitted have been established. The internet, as you know, Kanchan, cannot be regulated by states. And so, therefore, in a lot of ways, it's meaningless for a state government to try and legislate for things that are happening on the internet, because it's certainly something that they can't do very much about, even if they have law and order under their control for the state. So these rules, in my opinion, create a framework that now is clear for all states, all courts, and the most important stakeholders, the gaming startups, the gaming companies, the gamers, about what is permitted online and what is not. So I think this is a good first step for the online gaming industry, the online gaming ecosystem. The SRO model is essentially a very, very strong, well thought through, designed experiment about how we can do regulation by involving the stakeholders and having the government present, to allowing this sector or the ecosystem to expand and evolve over the years as things will evolve and things will change.
So if I can come in some
Yeah, go ahead.
three quick points
Yep.
over which there seems to be some confusion.
Hmm.
One, betting, as we know, is a state subject in India. Am I
Right.
right? So now, when you are prohibiting online betting and wagering, how does it does it override the state's authority, or is it in conjunction with it? Is this just a regulatory architecture which the states can or should follow? And lastly, now when you have something like that, like Tamil Nadu coming up with its own law,
Hmm.
how do we reconcile? Because I'm sure other states will also do that. States which allow lottery, for instance, online lottery. Now, how will we be reconciling the difference between the prescription in the IT rules and what the state governments wish to do.
Right. So let me just say, to start with, let me say that betting is betting and gambling are the same thing. And yes, some states allow it, some states don't allow it. So, for example, betting is fine in Goa, is not fine in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala, and many other states, including the states in the north. So, this is not in any way an attempt to regulate betting and gambling as is happening or has happened and is being regulated by the states and their law and order machinery. They are prohibited in most states, and when somebody does betting and is caught doing betting, they fall afoul of the criminal law, and cases are filed by the local police and are prosecuted. So that continues unchecked. That continues as is continuing now. The issues about the internet and activities on the internet. Now, certainly, it is clear, even to somebody who's sort of looking at this very commonsensically, that the internet is not a state subject and the internet can never be regulated by a state. Even countries are having difficulties in regulating the internet because of so much of the borderless nature of cyberspace. So these rules, what they do is to say what can be done on the internet and what cannot be done on the internet. That power vests with the government of India via the IT Act, and in the future with its successor act, the Digital India Act. And under the IT Act, we are today saying that on the Indian internet, anything that is wagering is a no-go area for an intermediary or a platform. It's as simple, and some people have told me that, but this is remarkably simple, but it is as simple as that. Now, will this come into conflict with some states that are trying to look at look at gaming from games of chance, games of skill? For example, the Tamil Nadu Act really, in my opinion, and with no disrespect to the government of Tamil Nadu, is really, in a sense, is a bit of a it's lost because it's making all these complex nuances about games of chance and games of skill, which is really not the issue today, because betting is defined by whether there is a wagering on the outcome of a game. Whether that game is a game of skill or a game of chance does not matter. You could still be playing chess, and if there is the provision to bet on the outcome of a game of chess, it is still betting, regardless of whether the underlying game is a game of skill. So it's a question of, I think, some states and some organizations and some lawyers have created certainly a tremendous amount of confusion, maybe deliberately, maybe not so deliberate, and have made this a lot more complicated than it should be. And we have basically, because maybe we've approached this with a completely fresh perspective, we have basically said, look, we are about addressing user harm on the internet. We are about addressing illegalities on the internet. We certainly want the Indian internet to be open, safe, and trusted and accountable. And therefore, one of the issues that impinge on safety and trust is the issue of online betting. So we have regulated online betting as not permissible in the Indian context on the Indian internet. Simple as that. Now, if some state governments want to do something more than that or less than that, they certainly can't do anything less than that. But if they want to say, like, look, as a gamer in the state of X state, we also don't want you to do A, B, C, D, and that will fall afoul of our local laws. They're free to do that.
But there is another issue attached to it, that
Vijay?
is on advertising
Hmm.
for online betting and wagering.
Hmm.
Now, till now, Government of India could only issue advisories against such advertising because there was no overall architecture. Plus, the reason was that some states permitted lottery, online gaming, and some didn't. So now that this new architecture is in place, will this also mean a total stop to either direct or disguised advertising promoting online betting and wagering?
I certainly think yes, that if something is not permitted on the Indian internet, we certainly cannot have platforms domiciled in the British Virgin Islands or Cayman Islands advertising those platforms on the Indian internet. For what purpose? I mean, if it's an illegal service, why would an illegal service want to advertise in India unless they say we will provide you a loophole to avail our services? So, so I mean, it makes no sense if somebody says, "No, I still want to advertise. I'm a betting site. I'm based in whatever the British Virgin Islands, but I want to be able to advertise on Indian platforms and Indian media." And even though my service is illegal, it makes no sense. So, we have in the rules prescribed that no advertising, surrogate or otherwise, of these online gaming services that contravene the conditions of either wagering or addictive behavior and or harm should be permitted.
Thanks. So now let's move on